Well, hey.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
So it's just the two of us while Leslie is out running around the countryside. So we'll do the best we can until he gets here. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain. I've
Yeah.
had I've had class all week, so this is a welcome change of pace.
No, yeah, I definitely understand. Finals week is coming up. Almost done with school, so I'm so happy.
Yeah, yeah. So you laid out what you wanted to talk about. Tell the people what you want to talk about.
So today I titled "Will these laws be create order or chaos?" Because today I really want to talk about Joe Biden's child care plan that he's trying to propose to Congress. Then I want to talk about Georgia's voting laws of how they're being boycotted. And then lastly, I want to tie in how the Texas House actually approved of carrying guns without a license in the state of Texas. So yeah, we're going to see if these laws actually are creating order or chaos. So
Interesting spin. I like the angle. So let's dive right in. Uh,
right.
First 100 days, Joe Biden gives his joint speech before the Congress to the nation to address all of the things that he's accomplished and the things that he wants to accomplish. And based on the order versus chaos, I'm assuming that you want to focus on the big piece.
No, yeah, I think so. Basically, if a lot of you guys haven't heard about it, he's proposing a $1.8 trillion child care plan, and it basically includes national paid leave, universal pre-kindergarten schooling, free community college, and a subsidized child care that would expand the federal funding for like the social safety net for families and children. So, I think it's a great idea. I hate to say it, but I feel like it wouldn't be passed. I feel like when it comes to because it's kind of gearing towards the lower and middle class family and trying to help them out, and I just don't think the higher class would really agree with that. I personally don't think it would get passed.
Here's where our paths may diverge a little bit. Um, I feel like he has set it up this way because there is a lack of leadership in the Republican Party right now. And so, if ever there were a time to forge your own path, this is the time to do it. What do I mean by that? Budget reconciliation is a process by which items that have a direct effect on the budget can be passed without um, the 60 vote threshold. It can be done at majority. And I think that's what he's setting up here because he knows that the Republicans are not going to participate.
Yeah, that is very true. I think the main thing that it talks about though that I looked up is basically saying the proposal, and in addition to that, it's an $800 billion that would cover targeted tax credits for the middle class, and it will also crack down on tax loopholes, used by high income tax fillers. So that's why I feel like it is a great idea. I'm just not sure if it will get passed. That's just the only
Well,
thing.
and I think that's a reasonable place to be wary because we know the former president spent a lot of time making sure that tax cuts were put in place for the top earners in the country. We also know that some of the biggest corporations that are based in America pay $0 in taxes.
Exactly.
So, I mean, when you start talking about um, challenging that structure, yes, there's going to be some pushback. But I think if he continues to be savvy about it and reframe the debate around bipartisanship as the people in the country with real need are the people that are supporting it, then he has a shot at reconciliation. Oddly enough, again, the biggest impediment is going to be the senator from Arizona, Sinema, and the senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin,
Yeah,
both
that's
Democrats. so,
yep.
so he's got to figure that piece out, and it's probably going to be around those tax cuts. The proposals are going to have to come down just a little bit.
Yeah,
But
and it's planned to work for like the next 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. That's
yes,
what the plan is. So I just feel like, when it comes to pay leave, when it's like to maternity pay leave, men can get it as well. And I feel like that will also be the issue. Too many people might be out of work, so therefore the economy might not be as booming as so. And then you're also assisting so many people for not doing work. That's why I feel like there will be a a, a friction right there. For that's why I feel like for his plan in a way he's
well,
trying. He's offering so much assistance, and some people are like, okay, wait a minute, they're not really big on assist. Some people in government aren't really big on always assisting the citizens. If that makes sense. What is it called again? What type of government is it called again? I'm trying to think right now. Where they just were usually people higher up believe that the government shouldn't always be in every decision that's made. People should try to get it on their own. I'm trying to think of it. I can't think of it right now.
it's all right. It'll come to you. But I
Yeah.
want you to try this on for size too. When considering paid leave, more so than looking at what's happening in the United States, look at the top industrialized countries in the world
Yep.
and look at their universal countrywide support of paid leave and the effect that has on the families. Um, it is offering assistance, but it's a worthy assistance because people that are starting families or people that need to care for elder members of their family, they're going to work harder for you if they know they have an avenue that will allow for that.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's also in the article that I read, it stated how this is built as like the generational investments for our future. So it's trying to outcompete China
Yeah.
because I think that's the whole point of it. And I think it's a great idea. I do. I just hope it gets passed. That's the real issue that we have here.
Well, I think the chaos is going to be there because it's an opportunity to kind of level the playing field. Um, Long before you came on as an intern, Leslie and I used to do a segment on income wealth gap disparities,
Mm-hmm.
and COVID has caused that gap to increase even more. And it seems like whatever problem is thrown at the United States, that wealth gap continues to expand. And so anything that he can do to try to slow that down, or at least put workers at the table, is a good thing. But there's going to be chaos in politics. So I take your point as a well constructed point because the chaos is going to be there.
So this is the question I actually have for you, Dr. Irvin. Do you feel like when it comes to this child care plan, do you think it will make it an even playing field for when it comes to black and white? Because it will also assist a lot of African Americans in this country right now if this plan is put into action. Do you feel like it'll be an even playing field then? We'll finally be able to compete with them and not be already 10 steps back?
I wouldn't say it would be a panacea. I wouldn't say it would be a panacea, but I would say it would be something that can help because I want you to think about this. When COVID hit, one of the largest monthly expenses people with children have is childcare. And so when COVID hit, that meant the schools were closed. That meant just about everything was closed. So you had to choose between caring for your children or working. Well, if
Very.
you can't work, you can't afford anyone to watch your children. And so it creates a cycle. Who is caught up in that cycle? People who are on the lower end of the disparities. And so I think, yes, it will help. It's one of those things that will have a large impact on working families.
Yeah. And I think that's where he realized the people who were voting for him the most, that's where his majority of his voters came from, was the working class, the working family. And I think that's what he's trying to gear this bill towards. So
Right.
I think it's a great idea. I'm really excited. I hope it's put into action pretty soon, because I feel like then you will also see an increase of people going to college. I feel as so, because a lot of people, even though a lot of people can afford to go to a 4-year college, some people really still can't afford to go to a 2-year college. So it will bring a lot of more awareness to education. It will boost a lot of social constructs in this country today. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. He's thinking big instead of playing small incremental change. He's trying to get some things in place because here's the cold hard truth that he understands, being an insider to politics for so long. Once you give people something, it doesn't matter what party is in control. It's hard to take it away. So
Exactly.
if you can get it to them, then guess what they're gonna fight to make sure it stays. And if that means no thank you Republicans, then that's what they're gonna do.
Now, do you think what you just said right there, like once you give people something that's hard to take away, do you feel like a good example for that was Obamacare?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. If you notice, they made lawsuits, they made proposals, they've made everything that you could think of, even all the way up to the Supreme Court to try to strip it. But
Yeah,
the public sentiment says, no, 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 I need my health care. So
exactly.
yeah, so I mean that's a concrete example. I think Leslie is here, so let's get him in here so he can talk with us.
All right. Let me add him in here.
What's happening, family?
What's going on?
It's nice to
While
see
we
you.
while we get Leslie up to speed, do we have any comments from the audience?
I don't think so. We don't have any right now. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have some pretty soon. We was actually talking about, just to catch you up, Mr. Peters. We were talking about the 1.8 trillion dollar child care plan that Biden is trying to propose, and he's trying to get it approved by the House and the Senate. And we were saying that it's a good idea. Of course, it's going to create a little chaos, and like Dr. Irvin was saying, it's always going to be chaos in politics. But it is a really good idea, and that's what we were just getting to.
Well, I agree, and I had a chance to listen to you guys before I joined on, sitting back in the green room, and I will tell you that you're right. The biggest expense that any working family has is going to be around childcare, and it's also, not only is it the biggest expense, it's the one expense that you don't necessarily look for the generic. If I will, I mean, when it comes to somebody taking care of your kids, you got to feel pretty good about who you leave your kids with. So you're not looking for the generic prescription in regard to that. So therefore, it takes up quite a bit of that disposable income that we all have, and we're okay with that. Any good parent is okay with that, because you want to be able to be in a good place to go do what you do when you know you left your kids in good care. So I applaud in that. I think the bigger question is, can we get this done, right? On both sides of the aisle, can enough people see the good in this bill to get it done?
The answer,
I think that's
the answer to that is no. I don't think this is going to be a both sides of the aisle type deal, because there are tax cuts involved, which Kennedy pointed out.
Yep.
When you start talking about taking those tax cuts back from the rich and wealthy,
That's
well, that's where I was going to go next. So when you look at a bill like this, my first thoughts were, so as a person, I understand the value of the bill. Representing the middle class, I understand the value of the bill. But if I look at it from the lens of somebody that's affluent, there's no way you sell me this. Because number one,
look at what he's doing, though. Look at what he's doing. I'll let you get back to your point.
Okay, yeah, because I want to hear the counterpoint to this.
Yeah.
When I look at it, what I say is, okay, I get it, but what I say is that if I'm affluent, I don't have a problem with childcare. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It's not really an issue to me that I have to choose between this or this. Or if I invest and I got the right childcare, now I need to make sure I choose a job that keeps me in a certain distance from home so that I can get there to pick them up in time and not have the overage fees and all of that. That's not really a deal breaker for the affluent. And so they can look at this bill in a different way. Because remember, and then on top of that, when you talk about taking away tax cuts that I'm getting, So this bill is going to actually cost me money because I'm spending it in a different way. And so I think that's where the challenge will be selling it across the aisle.
But here's the thing. If you look at what he has done, and Kennedy, this is important for you more so than for us,
Okay.
is this. He is changing the strategy when it comes to framing the debate, which is something that I always tell Liz that Democrats should have been doing prior to Obama, since Obama. He has changed the debate. Yes, all of what Leslie said is true, but guess what? Joe Biden is crafty enough to know I'm not going to get them. I'm never going to change their minds. So I'm going to talk to the working people so that they support it, and I'm gonna press my party to pass it in reconciliation.
Very true.
So, all right. So let's go here. So anytime you propose a bill, you got to propose a bill with enough wiggle room in it that you got some things to negotiate, because you know at the end of the day, that bill is going to be a little lighter than what you push through. You're going to have to give up some concessions. That's just politics in general. I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. So my question to you, distinguished scholar, is what do you think that bill, what do you think a passable bill of this nature will look like when it's all said and done?
So I'm going to give you a concrete example, since Kennedy started us off with a concrete example.
Okay.
Look at the COVID relief package. Just about everything that he said he wanted in there,
yeah,
it was in there.
That's true.
And so if you look at what I'm telling you, is he's changing the dynamic of how you get things done in the current climate, because Republicans are not going to vote for it. You could go to them in good faith and negotiate, put things on the table, which is what you're saying. That's kind of the old way right now, because they're only interested in the power dynamic, which you speak about very eloquently. They that's what they're interested in. They want the power for the sake of having power.
Right.
True.
They're not interested in policy prescriptions that affect 85-90% of America. Because if you think about it, the people that you're talking about are going to have a problem with this, they make up 1%, 2%.
They're the top 1%. We're talking about 1%ers. It's the same group of people I talked about when I talked about the wealth gap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and don't get me wrong, I want to be in the 1% one day. That's my goal. You know, we work hard every day to get to the 1%. But so I understand why, when you just look at the numbers, if you just my wife has this thing, numbers don't lie. They're not emotional. They just tell you it is or it's not. And so when you look at the numbers purely from just a number standpoint, if you're affluent, somebody's going to have to sell you on this because it doesn't add up.
Yes, but what I'm telling you is, because there is no broken filibuster, because Republican leadership is not strong, he's going a different route. The two people that he has to negotiate with right now is Joe Manchin and Christian Sinema. And then there's a third that he has to negotiate with, and that's the progressive wing of the party, because what they say is it's not big enough.
Okay.
And so the numbers that you are looking for that are going to have to be negotiated, that's going to be on the Sinema Manchin side, and that's probably going to be around what percentage capital gains kick in at, which is still not going to really affect that number. But what the progressives are saying is do sweeping change.
Charles, you said something. I want to make sure we break that down for our audience, because he used a financial term, capital gains. So let's break down what capital gains is, because if you ain't had no capital to gain from, you might not be familiar with that term. It was a lot of years before I was ever familiar with that term. So capital gains means that, let's take, for example, you buy stock.
Mm-hmm.
You don't pay taxes on stock, even the appreciated value of stock, until you sell. And then at that point that you sell, you have now realized capital gain or capital loss.
Right.
So that's what he was referring to. Carry on.
So if I buy stock in Disney at $5 a share, and it goes up to $100, then I'm paying capital gains on what I gained out of that.
That's correct.
Okay.
If it goes down to $2 and I sell, then that's a loss on my capital.
Right. And so, a lot of businesses gonna have a lot of losses after 2020 COVID, with the exception of a few industries that benefit.
True.
So
Very true. Well, I'm glad y'all clarified that up. Now, the next topic that I wanted to talk about was recently I just saw that Joe Biden visited Georgia to discuss their voting laws. And I don't know if the audience has heard, but recently I want to say maybe about going on a month or so ago, it was a Dr. We talked about this in class. I just can't remember the lady's name, but she got arrested. She was a black
Representative Parks.
yes, and she got arrested for knocking on the doors of the chambers where they were discussing about the laws. And it's voter suppression. So do you guys feel like since Joe is visiting Georgia and discussing these laws, you feel like it might actually be a change in this? He might reverse the voter suppression law?
That's not what he was there for.
What was he there for?
So what he's there for is to highlight the fact that they're being suppressed. What he's there for is to take a victory lap.
That's what's okay.
What he's there for is Senator Raphael Warnock is going to be in a heated battle in this next election because he was in a special election. So he's not a full-term senator. He's finishing out a term. And now the election for that full 6 years comes up in the midterm election. So what he's trying to do is put that big 2,000-watt bully pulpit, president is in town spotlight on Georgia because he knows this is happening all across the country.
Wow.
But he has the biggest chance of maintaining the Senate if Warnock wins.
Now, another thing when I was reading about the article is how a lot of people know, but Stacey Abrams, how she's trying to eyeing this type of voting law, and she's trying to, understand with her Black community because she is a Black girl that was raised in Georgia. But I think one thing in the article that she says, she stated that she understands the point of these boycotts, but if anything, it's only hurting the victims of these voter suppression laws. And I get that, but I just feel as though, why would she not? I guess I don't understand why she wouldn't support it, even though I understand that, legislation and everything like that is a part of it's her work, it's her line of work. But why would she still not support the boycotts? What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. That's
all right,
wrong.
Young grasshopper. Here you go. Here's the education in advanced politics.
Okay.
Former President Barack Obama was considered to be one of the best counterpunchers to ever be in politics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a boxing metaphor, meaning that he's not going to hit you first, but when you reach out to hit him, he's going to hit you twice, and twice as hard.
Okay.
What Stacey Abrams is doing there is showing you that she is a master counterpuncher, and she's pointing out economic disparity. It's not that she doesn't believe in the principle of boycott, but a lot of those businesses that are going to be boycotted are Black businesses.
Okay.
And so that's why she's telling you, hey, I understand the principle.
Okay.
But is the principle worth going to the mat for if it's going to economically put us deeper in a hole? When we have time to counteract and counterpunch on this, because believe me, the reason for the successes in the Georgia outcomes in this past election cycle is directly attributed to her and her legal team, because they pressed on every issue, and they got language that said paper ballot for audits. They got language that said extended voting hours, extended voting days. So she knows the ins and outs. You notice when the good senator from Louisiana tried to challenge her on, tried to make it seem like she was just a malcontent. She broke it down for him.
Did she ever?
Okay.
Charles, I think that's worth you diving a little bit deeper, because to a person that says, okay, well, how, let's just take a specific example. So Major League Baseball pulled the All-Star game out of Atlanta.
Right.
How does that hurt so many of the victims business, the black businesses, the small businesses? Give me some examples to make this real.
Yeah. So here's the thing about an event of that scale. It's booked in advance. So that's going to help the hotels. And because it's booked in advance, then restaurants know how much food to order. Not all the people are going to eat at 5-star restaurants. More than likely, they're going to eat in restaurants that are close to the venue, close to the hotels. But if you know anything about Atlanta, 5 Points, all the trendy areas, Buckhead, there are literally thousands of black business owners in those areas who stand to benefit from just the foot traffic alone of an event at that scale.
Very
Tourism
true.
dollars. Same thing with the movie industry. Here's an even more concrete example. There's a young black lady who has secured vending contracts to cater for the movie set. So she's providing lunch, dinner, and breakfast.
Wow.
And so if you boycott and the movies pull out, then who does that affect? It affects her catering business.
Mm-hmm.
Great job of breaking that down. Great job. Great point.
Yeah.
And
so,
I hope. Oh yeah.
Go ahead, boy, Ken.
I was just saying, I hope that, because I'm not sure if the law has been officially passed yet, but I hope
it's signed. Yeah,
wow.
that's when Representative Parks got arrested. She was knocking on the door of the signing ceremony.
Wow.
Now there are already lawsuits flying about it. And the thing that you have to understand when you get into this business, you're gonna have losses. Everybody's gonna have losses. What you have to do is have a forward lean to absorb that loss on the chin and then organize around it. There's a way to beat it. Even if there's no lawsuit that is successful, which I suspect there will be lawsuits successful, particularly in the area of who can monitor, who can certify, and how those decisions are made. Because right now what they're trying to do is the Trump plan of removing it from the Secretary of State into the Congress to the elected officials, and that's like saying send the referees home and we're playing shirts and skins. Well, if your team is bigger than my team, I lose.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
So, you have to organize around it.
Very true.
This is a good point. So Stacy's point is that we have time left to counterpunch. So what does that mean? Break that down for us, because I now, thanks to you, see both sides of it, and I say, okay, well, man, I don't want to hurt my small black businesses. That wasn't the intent, but at the same time, we got to do something about this law. So, what do we do?
Well, here's the thing about it, and why I say it's counterpunch is because you need the threat of boycotting. You don't actually need the boycott because you've had a big enough event pull out. And now corporate sponsors, the corporate businesses, you know the corporate world in and out. You know what they respond to. Dividends, more money into the company, and making stockholders happy, especially the big ones. And so if the black executives in the company, if the rank and file work, so let's take here, we talking concrete examples today.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about order or chaos. Let's take Delta. Delta is based in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Who do you think works at Delta? we do.
We do. In a large number.
And so if enough of us are saying to the powers that be at Delta, you got to stop this, then that has a domino effect, not a trickle down effect. It has a domino effect because now the CEO is on notice that my workers are unhappy. If my workers are unhappy, they may affect the bottom line and affect my bonus and my stockholder.
Yep. And that's crazy because that's actually what she mentioned when they were talking about this in the article. She mentioned Delta Airlines, and then another one was the Coca-Cola business and the Coca-Cola.
Yeah, exactly. Who works at Coca-Cola?
We do.
We do. And so we have a lot more power than we think we do, but we have to stay in the fight. And so that's just one side of it, Leslie. Here's the other side of it, Kenny. So that's pressure on corporate.
Okay.
Which can do what? Delta goes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola is in every store.
Every country, really, when you think
got
about
Home Depot. You got a couple other big ones that's headquartered there.
And so, but when you put that pressure on them in Georgia, right at the home base, then they have to pay attention to all the bills in all of the states.
Right.
Yep. It forces them to really pay attention to these social issues. That's what it forces them to do, I feel like.
Right. So that's one counterpunch. The second counterpunch is this. You have the new law in front of you. You learn it and you adapt.
Okay.
And you start planning right now for worst case scenario. Just like we did in the presidential. You plan, you plot, and then you execute.
Okay.
So in other words, they giving you the handbook, so you know the rules. So now you just plan for them.
Right. So here's another concrete example of that. I heard Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is the mayor of Atlanta, talking about her conversation with former Congressman Andrew Young. And they changed the rules on him in 1974. And his election ended up being in the rain. And guess what happened? He won. Because he adapted and the people were so lit up that it didn't really matter. We're gonna do whatever we gotta do. And so our charge is to make sure that our people are engaged, educated, and that they can execute.
That's a big issue. Because even
lawyers, guess what? Stacey Abrams is one of the most brilliant lawyers, one of the most brilliant politicians of this century. So rest assured, she's going to have people around her who can handle the stuff that is constitutionally sketchy. But while they're doing that, we need to be planning for worst case scenarios so that no matter the outcome, we're ready to go for the midterm election. We know they're going to be shorter windows for early voting. We know they're going to be condensed polling sites. We know they're going to be raggedy machines. We know they're trying to change the voting pattern. They don't even want you to give them water or food. But those are things that you can work around with resolve if people know.
Yeah.
So Charles, what I hear you saying is it don't really matter what they do to suppress the vote if we still vote.
Yes, because here's what I would pose to you and Kennedy, and I don't hear this enough.
Okay.
Why do you suppose there are so many voter suppression laws being enacted now? Not the legal reason, but the political reason.
The bottom line is I need to win the election back. It's power.
Need to win, but go one step further. Can't win in the current environment. I don't have enough voters. So I have to suppress the other side because this is not aimed at the person like my mom or your mom, Kennedy, that votes in every election because they're going to vote.
Right.
This is aimed at new voters, voters of color, who may say, I'm going to sit this one out because they got all these new rules. I don't know. So that means you shrink it by 2%. What happens if you shrink Warnock's race by 2%? He loses.
Very true.
So this is aimed at the margins. It's not aimed at the
I get it. If you look at it and everybody votes, the numbers don't work out for them.
Right. So I need to try these scare tactics.
And this is one of their scare tactics, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the media
talks right now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was saying the media talks about it a lot, but a lot of the times they're only selling the sensational part of the pie.
Very true. So at the end of the day, when you look at it, and I didn't think about that till you brought it up. So the numbers tell the story because the country is changing and has been changing for quite some time. So if nothing changes, if they can't shrink that percentage and nothing changes, the numbers don't give them a way out. It doesn't give them a path to victory. So I've got to do a couple of things because remember, for the most part, they don't ever have a problem turning out their vote. They vote.
Yes.
The problem is always on our side. So, because we don't vote consistently in every election. We
That's right.
vote sometimes we don't. We got to feel it. So, if we can keep the pressure and understand, if we consistently show up and do what we're called to do, we will forever change the narrative.
Yes. And
And
gains.
yep. So sorry, keep going, Dr. Irvin.
No, go ahead. I'm just saying that you will gain seats instead of losing seats.
And I feel like if we continuously to keep we use the media to our advantage, and especially for my generation, we have to stay informed and stay educated and use social media outlets, because people, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that, when you're quick to see something like this and you be like, okay, oh wow, so they're doing XYZ in the state of Georgia. And I feel like once we stay educated, I feel like that will make us want to vote even more and just make us want to do even more and show up more in the elections. And I honestly feel like, since if people, especially in the state of Georgia, stay educated about this, where they, you know, what did you say earlier? You said shorten the voting days and have fewer voting sites. People are going to make way and, you know, not provide them food and water. I feel like even businesses will offer to, you know, okay, I'll just provide, you know, free food or free water and stuff like that. It'll just make people more, I want to say, determined and encouraged to go vote, regardless of the circumstances.
So think about this. Think about this. I want both of you to think about this, because it's something I think about often. In the era of the 24-hour news cycle, what is the big thing? It's usually one story that gets told 12 different ways. So what we have to do is not get sucker punched into believing what that headline is, because the headline is voter suppression. Voter suppression. We know it's suppressive. It's nothing new. What we have to do is change that narrative to, okay, here they go again. Now, what are we going to do?
And that's where you plan, you plot, and you execute.
Exactly.
Okay. Starting to tie all in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we have avenues available to us. The amount of time that we spend on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, those are avenues where we can change that narrative. Just have to be forceful about it.
Very true.
I'm gonna take us back. Kennedy, you're gonna have to go back and watch this on Netflix. I'm about to take us back, but you know, go back to the movie Do the Right Thing, man. You know, and really, they used to have this saying, you gotta be woke. You gotta wake up. You gotta wake up. And I think that's the call that we're seeing, Kennedy, for you to challenge your friends and lead it there. We got to continue to lead in our demographic. But we have got to really not only be awake, but we got to stay awake.
Stay alert.
And we got to stay alert, and we've got to stay ready to take action. And I was telling somebody this the other day. I said, you can't tell me you ready to vote and you ain't registered to vote. You ain't
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. I get it.
It doesn't work because there's a registration deadline. So you not woke, you not ready if you hadn't registered to vote. So you need to go take the action to register to vote. So when voting time comes, you can what? You can actually vote.
Right. And you can't tell me if you know how to bid on a pair of J's online that you can't figure out what the ID requirements are in your state to vote.
Very true, though. Very true. And that's where you see how some people's priorities are messed up right there.
Sketchy. Real sketchy.
Sketchy, but it's very true. That just shows you their priorities. Right,
I'm going to come to their defense a little bit here, right? I don't think it's always that cut and dry. I don't think it's always about priorities. I think it's vehicles and forums like we have here today with 3 different unique perspectives where we constantly paint the picture so that it's real to people, because you got to understand, not everybody understands. And so sometimes you've got to clarify things to the point that a person can receive it and understand how it affects them. Everybody wants to know I call it the whiffing, right? What's in it for me? Every single person wants to know what's in it for them, right?
Yeah.
Point blank, it is no questions about it. That doesn't have an age restriction. That doesn't have a party restriction. Every single person wants to know what's in it for them. So if we can figure out a way that we're constantly communicating in a way that can paint the picture of what's in it for them, I think that drives people to action. So sometimes they just don't know. They don't, because I mean it's not relevant because they're like, what's in it for me? Like, how is this gonna really affect me? Right?
And I think, like, especially now, so today, I don't know if you know Dr. Irvin, but you probably know Jackson is now on a water boil notice again. And so a lot of JSU students are trying to book hotels and stuff like that. And I feel like when you break it down to what Mr. Pease was saying, what's in it for me, you got to realize if you vote in this local election, this will be in it for you, because I think that's what you got to break it down to for some people. Sometimes you got to realize if you vote, this could be the change that really affects you right away. It's, so I think that's very, very true right there. You have to.
Kennedy, I'm going to give you something you can do, Kennedy. You just brought up something.
Hold on, Liz. I got to respond to this.
Okay, go for
it. Kennedy. Do you know what I spent my early morning doing? I had to trickle some water into a pot and boil it so I could take a bath.
Yeah. It happened early this morning too.
So yes, I am fully aware of the water crisis in Jackson.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, with no cap, I got a problem with the leadership in Jackson right now. Because you shouldn't have your citizens in 2021 in a situation where when the wind blows hard, and I don't know what caused it this time, but it happens too often. It's too soon. It's too traumatic.
Now this time the water plant caught on fire. I have not looked it up yet, but that is what I'm hearing right now. I have to look it up later. But they said the water plant caught on fire, which not making sense, because how does a water plant catch on fire? But who knows for sure?
It's possible. It's possible.
It is possible.
I was once in a former life in local politics, and I spent a good amount of time at the water treatment facility, and wires can get crossed, so it could happen.
Yeah.
But my point in saying what I said is to echo what you said, and that is, what's in it for me? Clean water. I want hot water when I take a shower.
And that's what you got to press to the citizens of Jackson right now. Like for the next local elections and stuff like that, this is what's in it for you. So you need to really understand and look at what these the people that are trying to run for these positions, their platforms, and what they're trying to bring to the city of Jackson. And I think that's what you got to, once you start pushing that and realizing it, especially once you look at what this, not even at the year yet, it's the first, this semester really, because it happened, the water crisis really started, I want to say February all the way to March, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, here we are again.
That's what you got to do. You got to look at it like that. So I appreciate it.
I will say this. Kenny, I was hearing you, I was listening to you, and I'm thinking, I can't remember, and maybe this is happening, so please enlighten me if it is. It's been a long time since I've been a student on a college campus. But when we were in school, I can remember the older generation really making it clear to us how important it was that, for the most part, this was going to be our home the next 4 years. If we didn't like what was going on with the city, with the laws that affected us as students where we live 9 months out the year, 10 months out the year, then we need to register to vote here so we can vote locally to impact those decisions. And I remember during that time, we had a large conglomerate. We even had voting polls on campus, and we actually voted. I changed my registration to Jackson, voted in Jackson elections. Is anything like that happening? Is any mobilization happening? Is that being communicated with students up to date?
Yeah, and especially when it was this past fall, when it came to the voting elections for people who, some students stay off campus, but they're out of state and stuff like that. And they were trying to register some students to vote before they went back home. So it was pushed. I think what we have to do, it was really hard because, of course, everything was virtual and COVID, and some students paid attention. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a student myself. JSU sends a lot of emails, and us students not gonna read all of that at some point. So I feel like when it comes to these next elections, since COVID will start to die down, I feel like the school will start having events where you're trying to inform and educate these students why it's important to register, whether it's in Jackson or register early before you go back home, so you can start pushing and voting and making a difference where you're staying at, because you are staying here the next 9 to 10 months. And I think that's the real issue. And I honestly feel like, though, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think enough of us students that are on campus right now were educated enough to vote in the local elections. What I think was, when we was looking at the local elections in Jackson, we was laughing at, Stokes and stuff like that. And we weren't really taking it as serious as we should. We kind of thought it was a joke. But I think as they see this is a serious issue and this crisis is not going anywhere, we're going to serious about it and realize, okay, we need to start registering to vote in Jackson, Mississippi, so we can make a difference, because we are going to be here for majority of our lives. So
yeah, let me give you an option, right? Challenge and maybe get with this SGA. You guys have the power to come together and do some things. But look, we had debates while we were on campus. We made them come to us. We want to hear about these issues. You want our votes? We're going to have a debate. The SGA sponsored the debate, and they came on campus. And we went and we asked the questions. But nobody's going to come to you if you don't make the noise and demand that they come to you.
exactly.
Here's what I will say. Because
Okay.
I know this to be true. COVID has affected the things that you're talking about. Not the student population will, because it's alive and well.
Okay, good.
It's happening. But
COVID,
think about COVID and how it tremendously impacted in-person events. How people were scrambling to be safe and secure from an invisible threat. And
the student population, really, a lot of us really didn't even come back. If we're being from the fall and the spring, majority of our population didn't come. Like the parking lot where the ASC is at, like right in front of the engineering building, that used to be packed freshman year.
Right.
Everybody was trying to park there. And Tiger Road used to be packed all the way to the back where the street was. Now it's barely anybody there. Even especially like before spring semester started, it was barely not anybody there. But especially after the water crisis, people never came back home. I mean, never came back to campus. So it plays a part. It does. If we had our whole student body population and COVID wasn't here, you would have definitely seen a huge difference. And if we started educating the students more and stuff like that, I feel like you would have seen a difference in the local.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's just the time in this small area, because it's there. The will is there, and they do vote like we used to.
We do.
I'm excited to hear that. That makes me feel really good about you guys, the next generation. You guys are plugged in, and I think, to your point, as we go into this midterm season, we will be back to live events. So you guys will be able to be even much more aggressive in the midterm play than you were this time.
Yep. That's why we're talking about it right now. Because what happens is in our community is we wait right up until it's time to vote, and it's too late.
Exactly. Wait till the registration deadline. Well, it's too late. Guess I'm not ready to vote anymore.
I need people to see me, Kennedy, and Leslie coming and be like, oh, they about to talk to me about voting. I better get myself together.
Yeah.
Very true.
No, yeah. And Charles, I think as we get, and I'm gonna put you on the spot, we hadn't talked about it, but I think as we get closer to midterm play, we're gonna have to maybe get aggressive and do some things on campus and partner with some other like-minded businesses to sponsor some educational things where we're just out talking to students. I don't know what today's student was like, but I was a broke college student. So
we broke.
If you fed me, I was coming.
We still broke.
It might be.
I think we keep to, and then the other thing about this is, not only is what's in it for me, what are they trying to take away that I already had?
Exactly.
So, because if they rob you of your vote, they rob you of your voice. And all they want is the power. They don't really care about the issues that affect you.
No.
Because here we got 10 minutes, and Kennedy wanted to talk about gun control. So here's we've been talking in concrete examples. Here's a concrete example. So you mean to tell me that the NRA could block the will of the people? 85% of the people believe in universal background check. So politicians are saying, give me the money and I'll block it. So what is that depriving you of? That's depriving you of a safe workplace, of a safe schoolroom, of a safe elementary school, of a safe Walmart, of a safe Winn-Dixie or Kroger or Publix, because they're saying that it's more important for me to get those campaign contributions than it is for me to protect your safety. I'd rather take the chance on somebody getting shot because I don't think the will is there to pass sensible gun legislation. And so that ties into another point that Kennedy wanted to talk about, which is why in the world would the Texas legislature pass a new law that says you can carry a weapon without a license?
Especially since a shooting, and I think that's what it just really opened my eyes about, because I heard about it on Twitter, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna look at this later. But then I had to look at it again because the House, they passed the bill, but they passed it to the Senate, and so we're waiting on the Senate's approval. But it was an 84 to 56 vote, and it just didn't make sense. And I think a lot of El Paso Democrats were trying to advocate for gun safety since last year they just had that mass shooting in El Paso at Walmart, where the gunman he killed 23 people and injured 23 people, but he was targeting minorities, especially Hispanics. So it's just kind of like, I feel like the citizens of El Paso are looking at this bill that's being passed like, y'all just really want you just really want these people to have guns and with no limitations. And they just, it's about to be 2 years. It's going to be 2 years in August. And I think it just shows, I truly hope the bill does not get passed. And I hope the Senate does not approve the bill. I just truly don't believe. I understand, people in their guns and they want to feel protected and any moment can happen. But I just do not believe that you need to carry a gun without the license. If that's the case, I just feel like a lot of people that's locked up with gun charges right now should be released. If I'm just being honest,
that would be a fair application of the law.
Yeah.
This is not designed for that. This is designed to stoke fears about the Democrats taking away your gun. So we're going to open it up so that you don't even need a license to have it.
Right.
Again, what are they taking away from you?
That's what they are. Your guns. Your guns, basically. They take away your guns, and that's what they don't like.
It's the old tried and true straw man argument. I think the problem with that argument is you have gun owners in every party, and they often crisscross issues. Nobody wants to take your guns. You can have guns if you want guns, but just like you need a seatbelt to drive safely in a car, you need common sense rules of the road when it comes to gun ownership.
Exactly.
You don't need to be walking around on Main Street with an AR-15 because there's nothing for you to kill in Dollar Tree but people.
Who is threatening you where you need that big of a gun? That's just what it doesn't wrap around my mind. That's what I'm not getting.
Yes. So we need to think about it from a common sense standpoint on that one, which they don't want to do because they are earning money to keep silent. And we know that when you're silent, you're complicit. So when they have these mass shootings, look at the people who are keeping silent.
So this is the question that I have for you, Dr. Irvin, since you stay in Mississippi today. Do you feel like if this bill does get approved and passed in Texas, do you feel like a lot of Republican states will start doing that, specifically Mississippi? Because I knew about guns before I came to Jackson, but when I came to Jackson, I saw a lot of different Mississippi residents, I never realized how many of them do carry guns. And I was just like, okay, what do you need this gun for? Well, for any moment. I'm just like, well, I just don't see why you need it on you 24/7.
Yeah, I
But do
mean,
you think that they might try to join the
so,
way of this bill?
so here's the way lobbies work. They do test cases in strong states, so they play from strength to strength.
Okay.
So they run the trial bubble in Texas on this one because Texas is a gun loving state. Then they move to the next gun loving state, and the next, and the next. Same thing with voter suppression. It's not an accident that you have multiple states with similar bills because they're all being written by the same people. They just do test bubbles to see where is more likely to succeed because everybody loves a winner. So if you get a win under your belt, then you go to the next state and the next state.
Very true.
Makes
It,
sense.
it does. Now I see why.
Yeah. So yes, you'll see it in other places. Just like you seeing suppression, you'll see it. And then before we get off, one thing I wanted to point out, and this has been troubling me, and I always forget. I guess I'm getting old. Um, but this is what I wanted to put on the radar for our viewers. Don't just look at this as a voter suppression bill because the parts that are the most sketchy, the ones that stink the most, are the ones that provide the leadership with the ability to change the rules of how votes are certified. That's not suppression, people. Suppression is saying you got to have this type of ID. You can't pass out water. You can't stand in line. We're gonna cut when you vote. When they start talking about taking it away from the Secretary of State, when they start talking about rearranging these committees, when they talk about decertification of votes and picking the vote, that's voter nullification. You need to know the difference. That means if you vote and are successful at voting, it doesn't matter because we're going to pick the winner. That's no
Exactly.
longer democracy. That's autocracy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Huge difference.
Very true.
I mean, you're right. That's a big difference.
Hopefully the audience will see how, these new legislation and laws, are they going to create order or are they going to create chaos? That's the
Yes.
whole.
If allowed to stand unchecked, it will create chaos for us. Black and brown communities will continue to suffer and suffer at a higher rate because they only want power. They're not there to help. There was a time when, even though some of the stuff we may not have agreed with, they were able to talk across party lines, like Mr. Peters was saying earlier. You talk across party lines, you come up to a compromise that hurts a little bit for everybody. That's how you know you won. That's the
Exactly.
way it was done. Right now, what they're saying is, yeah, we want power.
We want. I'll take it a step further. We want unbridled power.
Yeah.
Very true.
Oh,
Which
Kennedy,
I mean,
here's one thing that you left off your list that we hadn't talked about.
Okay.
Rudy Giuliani.
Oh,
the searching. The search. They had a search warrant to search his condo, right?
Yes. And his office.
wow. That's
And
very
one of his associates' office. So I wanted to put this out there on this particular topic because I worked at DOJ in the U.S. Attorney's Office. And I know that when they deal with someone of that high of a profile, it's been signed off on at the highest level of the Department of Justice, all the way up to the Attorney General.
wow.
And it was not just probable cause, because they're not going to play a 50-50 ball on a high profile target like that. They're going to look at it from the highest standard that's available for a criminal case before they put that in front of a judge, because at that point it's out of internal discussion.
Okay.
So people need to understand if the feds are coming after Mr. Giuliani, who was a U.S. attorney, who was a mayor, who was who was attorney for the president of the United States, it's been signed, it's been dotted, it's been crossed, it's been turned over, it's been returned, it's been looked at from every angle possible before it went out into open.
So it's been fully vetted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, beyond just being fully vetted, it's been put to a standard that means it's more likely than not he is in deep, deep doo-doo.
Deep doo.
I don't think you can get any more clear than that. But, we got to get out of here. It's Friday, but I want to remind people of a couple of things talking about chaos. Look, if you don't file your annual reports for your business, you're going to be in chaos.
Yeah.
And I need you not to be in chaos. So call me, 601-340-6800. You can even hit us up on our website.
Well, that needs to be done like today or
Yeah. I'll even be checking my emails over the weekend. Hit me up. If you got a business, you didn't file your annual reports, you don't know how to do it yourself, you want to pay somebody to get it done for you, hit us up. We can take care of that. If you know how to do it, go do it. Otherwise, you're going to get hit with a fine. So don't do that. All right. So that's the first thing. Second thing, if you want to be kept up to date on all things going, and as we move into the election cycle, we're also going to be sending you content, sending you things that's going to break down things for you to read. Thanks to Kennedy and her hard work, and you guys continue to show her some love. We're going to be generating a campaign where we funnel information to you, but you can't get it if you don't click in the link that Kennedy has put out there and register and give us your name and email address, and we'll send you relevant things, video things, and then we want to make sure you're well informed. We want to take you being informed off the table. So we wanted you to be able to have the discussions with people you influence, have the discussion in the circles you reside, and be able to help us push people to go into action. So we don't want you not knowing to be an issue as we move forward. So 2 things I'm asking you to do. Get out of chaos, file your annual report for your business. If you don't know how to do it, you want us to take care of it, hit us up. You can call Charles, you can call me. And look, somebody's going to answer our phone 24 hours a day and get us the message. So 601-340-6800, let us know. And then also register on the list so that we can get this content out to you, which is going to be absolutely critical as we move forward about doing things. We're doing all of this in the good spirit and under the direction and charge of really the late Representative John Lewis to say, go about life getting in some good trouble. And that's what we're doing. And that's what we will continue to do. And we encourage you to join us and get in some good trouble with us. Charles, take us out of here.
Well, order versus chaos. Some people believe in and thrive in chaos theory. What we strive to do is take the chaos away by cutting through all of it and giving you what you need so you can arm yourself and execute on your plan. What plan is that? Any plan that's going to affect your life starts with this. You love your family. You love your friends. Most of you love your jobs. You love your businesses, your creators. But if you don't vote, all of that is in jeopardy. And so the chaos around policies, the chaos around voter suppression or voter nullification, all of that, we're trying to provide you with information you need so that you can get your groups together so that you're not just voting for people, you're voting for platforms. Yeah. And the final concrete example I will give you of that is people voted for Donald Trump. People said he couldn't win. And it has taken us this long to get to where we are, to get him in our rearview mirror. Do we want to let him back in or somebody like him, somebody smoother? Because he was bad for business. He was bad for morale. He was definitely bad for the likes of Giuliani and everybody else because they all going to jail. So let's get back to getting those ideas, the big ideas, big, bold ideas. But that starts with voting. And just because somebody tells you couldn't do something, I want you all to remember, when mama told you not to touch that stove, guess what you did?
Touch the stove.
Touch the stove. So let's go get it.
Wow, great way to wrap it up. Y'all have a good weekend. Stay informed, stay engaged.